This video is intended to help you set up a local development environment for Meridian 59. Before you start, you will need a GitHub.com account. That is where the project is hosted and how you will contribute to it, if that's your goal. All right, so let's start by installing the tools needed for compiling the project. In this case, you're going to need Visual Studio Community. I believe the current version, at least at the time of making this video, is 2022. I will provide a link in the description, but you go through the process of downloading, and then at that point, you'll probably see a screen very much like this one, asking you what components you want to include in your installation. The only one you need to check here is the desktop development with C++. And go ahead and click install. I already have it installed, so my buttons are a little different here, but you'll see an install button. Just go ahead and click that and wait until it's done. Once it is fully installed, you'll see a screen like this, and there's one more step. Find your way to your environment variables, and you want to add a new line to your path, which will be a path to Visual Studio's toolset. This is because you don't use Visual Studio, the graphical IDE, to develop here. You're just going to use a command line to compile your editor of choice, even Notepad, to edit the files. So we'll install this, or we'll add this to our path, and then we'll use a command line from here. In my case, I have Windows 11, and so there is an application called Terminal already installed. I'll open that up and keep it in the background, but just showing you for now. This is PowerShell. If you have Windows 10, you're going to need to go and download and install Windows PowerShell. All right, next step. If you have a GitHub account, or if you don't, go make one. I'm going to go to GitHub. And here is the open source code base. You can't contribute directly to this. You need to create what is called a fork. So if you're authenticated on GitHub and you're looking at the project, there's this fork option up here. You'll go through a step or two to create your fork. In my case, I'm showing you mine. And then you have your version of the code base. From here, assuming GitHub Desktop is installed, you are authenticated in GitHub Desktop, click the screen button and say Open in GitHub Desktop. Now it's asking me where on my local machine I'd like to have a copy of the code base. I'm going to go with this location. All right, the project has been downloaded to my machine, and these choices dictate how the UI, or what options the UI in GitHub Desktop presents to you, and how it acts. It's probably too much detail for you. Just choose that you want to contribute to a parent project. All right, so now the code base has been pulled down to your machine, in my case, to the H drive. If I go over to Windows PowerShell, I want to first launch the developer prompt, which, since I've added that tool path to my Windows path, I can simply type launch dev command. It will launch this developer command prompt. I'll jump to H drive. I'll jump to this folder, and here I am. And from here, I can simply run nmake to build the client end server. While this is going in the background, there's a step you'll need to do here that I think is easily overlooked, And that's for the client to run on your machine. It needs all of the game's resources. The most reliable place I've found to get this is the web client. So if you go to meridian59.com, go to the download link, grab the installer, and install it, you'll have what you need for the next step. So while this is compiling, I'll just show you what I mean here. And that's I previously installed to this directory. What it's missing here is a resource directory, and that's because of how these latest versions of Windows handle these sorts of things. So what you need to do is go to your main drive, users, find your user. Oops, and then you're looking for app data, local. We'll find Meridian 59 and there's a resource folder. Just going to select all of these, copy. Then I'm going to go to my project code base directory. I'm going to go to run, local client, resource. I'm going to paste all of these here so that my client has all of the resources it needs to operate properly. If it tells you that you have some existing, just replace them. All right, going back to the project being built. It will complete here momentarily, and then we will run the server. And once we start the server up, we'll create an account and a character slot for us to use. Then we'll fire up the client and join our server. All right, now the project's been built. I'm going to navigate to the server folder, run server. I'm going to pull my notes up here quick. We're going to create a new account for us to use. Username test, password test. That is now account number 3. So what I'm going to do is create an admin character slot on account number 3. So now, if I log in using my test username and test password, I'll have an open character slot. And the character I create will be an admin, which is probably a whole nother video. But when you get into wanting to boost your stats or create items or test certain things, test all manner of things, I don't think you can do it without the admin, without being an administrator. All right, so the next step here is to navigate to the local client build. And I'm just going to pull a line from the repository README, which if you haven't read, you should definitely go through that. Paste that here, and this will start the client. It will pre-fill the username and password, and then it will set some parameters that connect it to my local development server. Just pull this to the center. So test. Here's my character slot. I'll just name myself test. I mean, you can fool around with these if you like. Usually just jump right in. Here we are in Rasa.